the first offer you receive is always the best offer. And you and I know that is... Welcome to the Lowe Down. We're here for the first episode of season 3. I'm with my good mate Adam, and we were just saying how amazing it is to be here at season 3 already.
Season 3, back by popular demand.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
What does that mean? 3 viewers?
Well, look, it's been enjoyable to do it with you, Adam, and today we've got an interesting topic because we're going to be busting some real estate bullshit, aren't we?
Yeah, some real estate agent myths.
There's heaps of stuff out there that gets said, it just doesn't have much logic behind it, but sounds convincing, isn't there? And,
sure.
I think it's good to recognise that, and it's good to go through.
And it almost becomes like just part of the popular narrative, and everyone assumes it's the truth. And the myths that get out there, and the reality is that real estate agents unwittingly, it's not like people are intentionally doing it, but they can perpetuate these because it becomes kind of just popular wisdom, doesn't it? Real estate agents are human beings like everyone else.
So just
hard to believe.
Just to kick one off, which I think is a really important one for sellers, is there used to be this, and I heard it for years when I started in the industry, was the first offer you receive is always the best offer. And you and I know that is just BS, isn't it? It's rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're trying to sort of work out what are the rules versus the exceptions here, right? So, I mean, obviously, is it true that sometimes the first offer is the best offer? Is it true?
Of course,
sometimes, right? But what's the norm? And I mean, we know that if you try and sell it too quickly, the faster you sell it, the higher the risk is that you're underselling it.
Correct, yeah.
Right?
You're missing out on competition, which is what drives price.
Exactly. Not when I say too quickly, I'm talking days, not weeks, typically, right? Because we know that the average, on average, the best price is achieved between 15 and 18 days on the market. So if you've sold something in 5 days, or if you've got an offer in 5 days, there's a decent chance that you could get a bit more if you wait another week and a half.
I agree, and you made a great point. It's really about odds, isn't it? We're talking when you talk
There's
about
no
the future,
absolutes here.
Exactly. Yeah. You could get lucky and it could be the best offer.
Yeah.
I think when real estate agents say it, what they're getting at is that time on the market is bad for getting the best price, right? The longer you are on the market, the less likely you are to get the best price. Yeah. And that is 100% true, but that's different than the first offer being the best offer.
That's right.
And it's differentiating between those, which I think is important for
sellers. Well, it's true to say the longer you're on the market, the worse after you've reached the peak. Yeah. Which is 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Or just over 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, part of the reason for that 2.5 week time frame being the best is, of course, that's when, tender processes and auctions tend to conclude, and that will, that competitive nature of that will be driving a lot of the price. But you can also, and so when those fail, and then you have to continue on, and then of course the market starts to wonder what's wrong with it and why hasn't it sold, and suddenly you've got the listing online is 6 weeks old or 2 months old, and so that's why it gets harder. And also the pool of ready buyers, the buyers that have seen 10 or 15 houses that are ready making an offer, they've passed you by week 3.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's only new buyers that are coming into the market on week 3 and week 4.
Yeah.
But again, but that doesn't mean you can't reject an offer and get a better one in a week's time. That can still happen.
So what do you think? What is it that actually happens in that 16 days? That means that the result is typically better on day 16 than it is on, say, day 5.
Two things have happened. One of them is that buyers have been allowed to become more invested.
Yes.
So it's just human nature, right? Like the more time, effort, and energy we put into something, the more committed and invested we become. But there's a sunk effort, sunk cost, and also, on day 1 we're still comparing against everything else. It's still a relative game at that point.
Yes.
It's I love it, but what else what else can I buy for my money? I'm still just assessing my options.
You're still just comparing with everything else on the landscape.
Exactly. And then you go, okay, but this is interesting. I love it. It looks great. Now I want to know what's wrong with it. And so I start my due diligence process. We're sort of naturally cynical about houses, aren't we? We want to know what are the skeletons. So we go through a week and a half of due diligence. We see it 3 times. You know, we spend $2,000 with the lawyer looking at the contracts. We read the LIM report, read the building report. We might have a friend or an uncle to come and have a look at it and ratify our decision.
Yep.
Well, all of that time, effort, and energy means that by the end of that, if we make a decision to make an offer on that property,
Well, that's the key, isn't it? Because at some point, the buyer will go, "This is the one I want," and that's also when things change, isn't it?
Exactly. And so that's why I think that sort of peak time of which you wisely pointed out at the start is at that sort of 15 to 18 days, because they've done their research, they've written everything off. This home is now their next home.
That's right.
And so they're thinking about it all the time. It's kind of the adult version of Christmas, isn't it, in a way? It's like waiting to see if you're going to get the Christmas present.
And then the question becomes, what do I need to do to get this one?
To own it, So, and then, of course, the competition comes in from the tender process, or if it was an auction. You know, there's a desire to win at that point that is different than it would be on day 4 or 5 typically. So.
And then there's the other thing, of course, which is just simply, in 4 days, how can you be certain you've actually exposed your property to the entire market at that time?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for 4 opportunities versus 1 opportunity, you know, and our average amount of offers per tender at the moment is 2.4. Now, that at the nadir of the market, that was 0.7. You know, so there's significantly more buyer activity out there on the closed tenders we're doing. So, you know, if you don't get the opportunity to let that competition run, on average, you're going to lose money. You're not every time, as you said, because of the exceptions, but on average, if you ran that 1,000 times, you would cost your clients money. Yeah.
Nice one. What about, this is another good one. Sometimes if a property is taking a wee while to sell, the owners in particular, I think, will say, no, let's just keep going. I mean, the right buyer will come along eventually. What about that one?
Yeah, it's a really good one, isn't it? Look, I mean, it's partly related to what we were saying before, right? Which is that, you know, time is bad, not good to be on the market. But there's a more nuanced point, which is that the whole entire game of selling real estate is relative. And as a seller, we can't see it because we've
got one house that we're trying to sell.
We're in this bubble. All we're thinking about is the house we've got to sell, and we're very outwards focused. So we're just imagining these buyers floating past, and eventually one's just going to like it and pay my price. But the truth is that, you know, from the buyer's shoes, it looks very different. You know, a buyer's just literally going from one property to the next to the next. Just comparing.
Again, it's just comparison after another, isn't it?
And so it's how your property actually fits in with what we can't see. It's all about
relativity.
It's all about relativity, you know. And so what the buyers are telling you, if all these buyers are floating past you, and again, we know that in that first 2 or 3 weeks, that's when the ready buyers, the ones that we call the motivated buyers, right, that have missed out a couple of times or seen enough houses to make you an offer.
These buyers have graduated from the buyer training program.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it. And then, but if they've seen, you know, enough houses to make an offer, and then they see yours, and then they pass and go on to another one, what they're telling you is that they can get something better for their money elsewhere.
That's right.
So you have to take the cues from the market eventually. You know, you can't just wait for the right buyer to come along. One thing I would say is that, you know, it's not just owners, it's agents can get engaged in this too.
Yes.
It's easy for agents, and it's even the worst situation is when both the agent and the owner is in that point of view.
And they're colluding.
It's sort of colluding.
Well, it's easy for the agent because an agent becomes attached and develops a relationship with the owner and sympathizes with the owner's situation and starts thinking like the owner sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. And so, it's easy to do that, and it's natural, you know. And we're people pleasers often, real estate agents, and we want to do the right thing. But the best salespeople, the very best salespeople, are the ones that can balance getting the best price for somebody and their desire to do that and please them and get the right result with the reality as well, and knowing that, you know, there's no point in being up here when the market's here. But, you know, the key is getting an agent that is not doing that for their own incentives. They're doing that for the seller's incentives.
Yes,
you know?
100%. Yeah. Sometimes it involves some difficult conversations, saying some bad news, which is never fun.
Yeah, I agree.
What about the difference between the agent, like the listing salesperson, and the agency? You know,
so the agency, so the myth being that the agency you work with is irrelevant because it's the agent selling your house that matters. I mean, it's a really interesting one, right? Like, the agent, both matter is the answer. And the agent is critical. It's probably more critical because they're going to be in control of the marketing. You know, so they're going to be the most critical.
I mean, the agency is not selling your house. The the agency doesn't talk to the buyers.
No, but what an agency is of course a collection of real estate agents.
Yes.
And the network that the agency has is important.
I was just sort of thinking of the brand, if you like, but
Yeah.
But 100% you're right, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, one thing we know from the industry structure, if you look at any local market, like doesn't matter where it is, it could be in, Auckland, it could be in Christchurch, it could be in a small town. And it's not true on a national level, but it's true on a small local level. There's always, one dominant player, one player that is sort of slightly less than them, and then sometimes there's a third player, but there's never, and this is out of, maybe 20 agencies, all of the rest of them are minnows. Like you have, one with 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% market share max, and then you have ones with 25 to 40% market share. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that the market is gravitating towards the biggest network of agents. And what we know now as the number one listing agency in Wellington, that, and I'm sure you would agree because you've worked in smaller agencies as well, the amount of sales we do, when we have many offers from the other salespeople that are also in competition with our own, offers, that is getting better results for clients. But on average, because the reality is the more competition, we talked about before, competition drives price. And I know that, there's so much cross-selling that goes on when you have a big network and you have a bigger pool of buyers to work with from your network of agents. That is, again, you run that 1,000 times. And on average, you can make more money for your clients that way.
I mean, certainly, if you're a listing agent and you've got a property that's popular and you've got a few offers coming in and you have one or two colleagues who also have an offer coming in, you are motivated certainly to make sure you are doing everything you can to get your offers as strong as possible to try and beat the competition.
100%,
from your own selfish incentives, even.
And so are the other salespeople that are in that deal as well. And so, and every time somebody sells one of your listings within a big agency, that means the seller got a better price. So every time that happens, the seller got a price that had you not had that network wouldn't have happened.
I mean, to be the devil's advocate here, if that colleague hadn't been there, maybe that buyer would have come through the listing agent anyway. And who knows? It's hard to have the evidence either way, isn't it? But it stands to reason that just the competition between the two agents it's certainly unlikely to be depressing the price. If anything, it's more likely to be inflating it, isn't it?
I think the important thing to remember is that, when you have a network of agents that are working their trusted buyers, they are ringing and contacting those buyers, and they are working with them closely on showing them lots of properties. So they've built trust, and they can influence them. That's just the way that this game works.
The better the understanding of the customer, the more trust there is, then the more engagement you've got. And it's like I said, I don't know if we've got any empirical evidence, but it's just hard to imagine the possibility of that actually depressing the result. Well, it could only be upside.
I'll tell you what the empirical evidence is. Is the markets are efficient, and there is a reason why agencies get 50% or 40% market share, and have a subservient one at 25 or 30, because people understand. Control the buyers, you control the market. That's the reality of this game. And so if it wasn't like that, then sellers would not necessarily gravitate to the top agencies.
So it's certainly not the case that the agency makes no difference.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a huge difference. And then there's other smaller things like the support that they provide the agent and things that
that's
that
huge.
Are more,
that's huge, isn't it? Yeah. Yes. What about the whole timing? I mean, how many times do you get sellers saying, "What's the best time to sell?" And there's such a popular narrative out there, isn't there, that the best time to sell is obviously in the spring and the summer.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, as you know, I just follow the data, right? And I know that the evidence shows that the best time to sell, or the time of the year where the listings get the most attention, or each listing gets most attention, is in the depth of winter. Yeah.
And January.
Right, right in the start of January, because there's the new listings haven't come on yet, or they're just starting to come on.
So the supply side matters hugely, right?
that's the biggest determinant, the supply side. Yeah, I mean, at any point in time, there's nothing you can do about the demand. It's either there or it's not, or it's there to a certain degree or whatever,
So in a way, it's deeply ironic, isn't it?
It's deeply ironic.
Is that
everyone knows that the best time to sell is spring and summer.
Yeah. So therefore, the opposite
therefore,
it's
not. Yeah.
I always like that one. I mean, it's amazing. It's just such a great example of just raw human nature, that following the crowd, and the same with the collective wisdom being collective but wrong.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule. Like if you have a property that gets bad sun, that's plainly obvious in the middle of winter, and therefore middle of winter is not the great time to sell that one. But on average, the Trade Me data shows that too, doesn't it? That on average. Each ad on Trade Me gets more traffic, more eyeballs, and more watch list ads in the middle of winter than it does at any other time. Yeah.
And so, to a similar point, what about long weekends? What do you think about selling over a long weekend?
Yeah, long weekends. So, I mean, I've always just said doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what Sunday it is. If it's a long weekend, not a long weekend. But sellers often have a lot of concern around selling a long weekend, and the narrative or the belief is that everyone goes away, therefore the buyers are on holiday. Right, but I've just never found any correlation between open home traffic and whether it's a long weekend or not. It's basically the same. And yes, do some buyers go away? Yes, but do some buyers arrive as well during the weekend? If you're looking to move into Wellington, then in the long weekend you've got more time to actually go down there and visit and go and look at a bunch of open homes. So yeah, I mean, I've not found any difference, but certainly the sellers like to blame the long weekend if there wasn't a lot of open home traffic at their house.
Of course. And I do look at the maths, the stats that come through every week on open home traffic, and I can tell you there is no drop in long weekends. No. In fact, the sample sizes are small when you're just looking at one weekend.
Yeah.
But there's, I would say it's more likely that they actually increase slightly. But part of the reason is because everybody does the same thing at the same time. Same thing. It's almost the same as the winter argument, right?
Yep.
Is that we see a lot of agencies, dropping, their amount of listings those weeks because the people are scared of the long weekend. So and there's
some supply that's being held back because of the long weekend. The supply drops, therefore the activity per listing goes up.
And I think people who are actively out there to buy that, again, the really motivated buyers we've been talking about, they're not going away. I mean, less
they got a job to do.
Yeah, exactly. And less people go away than you think. It doesn't take much. If 5% of people decide to go away, that puts huge pressure on the road network. Just a small amount of increase. And I think if you actually surveyed people, I actually think it's probably less than you think that actually bail on a long weekend. There's quite a lot of organisation to get that planned and get that done. And most people.
So don't worry about the long weekend, guys.
Don't just go straight through. And another point, does the market go on holiday or does your agent?
Yeah.
It's useful for agents to have breaks, so they'll often use that as a good time to do it, and therefore, whereas actually maybe you should do the opposite. So,
and what about pricing? In Wellington for a long time, up to a few years ago, I think we did a lot of no price marketing. Is there a real estate agent myth around pricing, whether you should be pricing or not? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I have a strong view on this, and that is that. First of all, buyers hate it when there's no guide, right?
Yes.
And so this is an interesting thing. I mean,
buyers want some kind of insight to determine, am I wasting my time or not?
Yes. And again, so we go back to that relativity. It's really interesting, I think, fun stuff, fascinating, is if you're a buyer looking across all this thing, and one of the reasons you get frustrated is you're not able to pass judgment on it. Right? You're not able to do that relative, I like the look of that, or that's way too much, I'm going to move on. So what happens in today's, we used to be able to do that 20 years ago. You could do no price. People would look up the RV. RV was probably 30% below what it was worth, but that would attract people, and then the house would end up selling for 30% more in a competitive sale. Nowadays, of course, there are all these tools that can mean buyers can go to homes.co.nz,
all these
estimate tools, look at the RV. And the problem is, if you, as a seller and as an agent, if you're not purposeful about how you are positioning the property based on the relativity, based on everything else on the market, then you're just leaving it up to chance. And we know from pop psychology, right, like the behavioral economics and everything, that the first number someone sees is the one that will influence them. And it's quite counterintuitive. If that number is high, like if the homes.co estimate's high or the rateable value is too high, whatever, you might think that's...
Which a lot of sellers want.
They want, because this is very counterintuitive. But actually they have the total opposite effect, because in that relativity, you suddenly make it look like worse value for the very people that you're trying to attract.
So for that value there, I can get a much better house. I'm not going to look at that one.
And that's it. You've just lost, and the goal of marketing is to sell the viewing. It's not to have the house sold for the most money, And now, obviously, pricing can't mislead people. It's really important. It has to be a realistic level that owners would seriously consider. That's important. But that
can't be misleading.
Yeah, if an owner is realistic and you're running a competitive process, that's it. You want to tell the world about that and put the number on there. So in a relative sense, we actually get the buyers that we deserve at that level, not put people off.
I mean, what you want is as many people as possible to determine or to decide for themselves, gee, that property there seems to offer a lot of value. I definitely have to look at that one on Sunday.
Exactly. So and we see it. We've done this. We've run the numbers on this sort of thing. And you what happens is, when people do no price marketing, invariably they end up 3 weeks later with an inquiry level on it or offers invited upwards from level, because they suddenly the market has passed them by, and then suddenly they're on. And if you're having to do that on the later. You're not going to get the best result. You'll get a result, but it's just not going to be absolutely.
Well, at that point, the vast majority of the market has already made a determination on the property. They've already excluded it.
Exactly.
Getting them to change their mind in a sea of choice is pretty tricky.
I agree.
Yeah.
Adam, it's been amazing to chat to you about this.
Nice one.
And from the incredible Hummingbird, we're so lucky. Nick Mills, we have to say thank you to him for letting us use the space.
It is beautiful in here.
That was the Lowe Down. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back at it again next week. Thank you.
See you next time.